Mums with Hustle podcast, episode 506.
Welcome to the Mums with Hustle podcast, where you'll discover everyday mum entrepreneurs killing it in their industry. Learn the secrets you can replicate to create your own success with your host, Tracy Harris.
Well, I'm feeling spicy today. Is that what we're going to say? I'm going to bring you some brutal truths from my early years in business, because I really did collapse time, and I am really proud of myself that even though I started business with a 1-year-old and then had a second baby not too long after that, and it's been 10 years in this same incredible business, I have been able to do this without burnout. And it's something that I'm deeply passionate about, helping other women achieve for themselves. We don't need to break and be burnt out and be overwhelmed and hate life, hate the business, get unhealthy, lose relationships as we build our businesses. That is not how it is meant to be. It is meant to be like coming home to yourself. It is meant to be like giving yourself finally the freedom to be uniquely you. It is meant to create more ease and less chaos in your life. I'm not meaning to say that it's not going to be hard and there aren't going to be challenges and huge, steep learning curves, and you're not going to have nervousness as you put yourself out there, particularly for those of us that are building personal brands. No, all of that is going to be part of the journey and part of the experience. But there are so many graces in that. But what I am here to share with you is that it gets to be a beautiful journey. You get to enjoy the journey. And if you've ever thought, gosh, why aren't I further ahead? I've been doing this for so long. Why aren't I experiencing XYZ? And maybe you're seeing other people moving ahead and you're wondering how. Or maybe you've looked at me and you're thinking, how is it that Tracy has only ever worked as little as sometimes 0 hours a week? I know that that sounds crazy. In the early years, 2 hours a day. Maybe that sounds crazy to you. And yet she has built the sort of business and the lifestyle and has a happy marriage, has a healthy body, all of those things. How is she doing it? And so I wanted to sit down with you in today's episode to kind of be like a big sister and the woman that's just going to tell you the truth. I'm going to give you those brutal truths from my early years in business. But before I do that, I'm very excited because my Inner Circle Mastermind is going to open for 2026 applicants at the end of October. I know, I can't believe that we're already approaching that time of year, but next year will be the 7th year that I am running the Inner Circle Mastermind. This mastermind is Australia's first world-class true mastermind for females building lifestyle-first digital businesses through courses, memberships, masterminds, and coaching programs. We were the first, and we've been the longest running. We are the most established, and it is the highest level. It is beautiful. It is exquisite, and we only open for application once a year. And that once a year application process begins at the end of October. How cool is that? Now, I just wanted to share with you that it is by application. And then if your application is successful, I will offer you an interview where we can come and sit together and have an honest conversation about who you are, who we are, what this mastermind stands for, exactly what it is not. And I'm going to get an understanding of what your business is, where it's currently at, where you want it to be. Where are your strengths? Where are your opportunities? Where are your deficits? How we're going to be able to support you. And then we kick off in January and we go all the way through to December. So even though applications open at the end of October, we only commence in January. So if you've been waiting in the wings, because I know a lot of you have been, If you are in Freedom Filled Business or in the Social Method Society and you're feeling like I belong in that mastermind, I'm going to be applying. I'm excited to see applications come in from you. If you're not in any of my programs at the moment or have never been because you've been waiting with eyes on the prize for the mastermind, you're going to have your opportunity to do that as well. So stay tuned. Make sure that you're opening my emails, following me on socials, listening to the podcast, and you will not miss it. But let's dive into the brutal truths from my early years in business, because most people will not make it because they won't make the decisions required that actually moves the needle. That is a fact. It's not because anyone is more lucky. It's not because someone has more money. It's not because someone works harder than you. No. Most people won't make it. And when I say it, I'm talking about your freedom-filled business and your life by design. Whatever that looks like for you, you won't get it until you start making the decisions that actually move the needle. And most people won't. Therefore, most people won't have what they want. And we have the statistics in business to prove that, right? You can go and speak to any accountant who is going to tell you about the likelihood of success for anyone that starts a business year on year. The statistics are alarming. They're not nice. We're here to change that. Because most people will quit when it's uncomfortable. That's a self-leadership problem. Most people will stay surrounded by people who play small themselves. Therefore, that becomes your reality. That's the ecosystem you're placing yourself in. That's the environment. That's who you have got to look up to, people who play small. That's who you have got to go to when you need wise counsel and stretching. You're going to people who play small. Some of you just need to elevate your circle. The invitation is always there. Most people will dabble in lots of little things instead of having discipline and mastering one thing. They will just dabble and they'll feel exhausted in the process. Choose mastery. Most people will choose comfort over growth. Oh, I don't want that. I feel nervous. Oh, that feels too stretchy. Oh, I feel afraid. So they're using all of that as a reason to not proceed, instead of recognizing that that is your go sign. We're going to talk about that. And most people will wait until they have an engaged audience before they show up. That's never going to work out for you. We need to show up, and that's how we get the engaged audience. So I didn't do any of those things, which is what typical people do. And in the process, it felt terrifying. Please don't make the mistake of thinking that it was easy. It felt terrifying. So here are the decisions that I made that most people won't, and therefore why I get the results that most people never will. That sounds really spicy. But I also know that there are people out there having a wonderful, wonderful lifestyle. They're also healthy. They're also in a beautiful relationship or marriage, and they're earning way more than me. I know that that exists. And that feels really cool for me because I'm like, where are those people? I want to find those people. I want to be friends with those people. I want to sit in circles with those people. I want to have conversations with those people. All right. So here's the first thing. Get ready to write this one down. I invested before I felt ready. I needed to be in the circle with people who were already doing what I wanted to do. I needed to see living examples of it before I could imagine being it myself. It had to exist out there in a place that I could see in order for me to know that I could have that, I could become that. And these people, they never, ever talked me out of my dreams. In fact, they believed that I was capable of even more, and they expanded what I thought was possible. Dabblers and people who play life and business on the sidelines, they will always be the one to call you back into reality, back into comfort, back into fear, back into scarcity, back into limited ways of thinking and being, back into problem-based thinking instead of possibility. I collapsed time by investing in myself before I was ready. And it is the single biggest reason that I grew fast, even though I could only put in 2 hours a day, even though I had anxiety, or depression from a past career and being out of alignment there with life. That investing in myself before I felt ready helped me to collapse time. Number 2, I showed up consistently even when it wasn't paying off yet. And I've shared this before. When I think about showing up for a year on socials, posting 3 times a day with content that took time, did cost high effort, putting out weekly podcasts. There's now over 500 episodes. Starting when I had an audience of 0. I built trust and I built visibility long before I ever started bringing in sales. And most people aren't prepared to do that. Most people quit too soon. But consistency compounds. The amount of times in my early years that I was asked by aspiring or beginner podcasters themselves, how many listens I get each week and, all of that. How long am I prepared to go until I throw in the towel? Because that's what they were thinking. They placed limitations. Things like, if I don't start getting at least X amount of visits per week, I'm going to have to can the podcast because it's not really generating any revenue for me right now. It's like barely anyone listens. So why logically would you keep going? I understand that mainstream type of thinking, but I refused to think like that myself. And I refused to sit in conversations with people who have those sorts of conversations because that would get into me. Of course, I don't have an audience yet. I'm building one. I'm also building the skill set of speaking without notes, speaking without pauses and ums, expressing my own ideas, my opinions, being brave enough, being disciplined enough to sit there every single week, record an episode, go through the whole process, put it out there. There's so much to be said about what I gained from doing that in the early years, and I would do it all over again. But it's not just about the podcast. Recently, a really lovely new mentee inside of my Social Method Society, she came into the community and she asked a very valid question. And I love her for asking this question because it reveals how most people think. And she asked if she really needed to go live on Instagram to complete that part of my social method framework. There is a section where it talks about creating an Instagram live strategy. And then there are lessons to support and action steps and even an Instagram live plan. And she was questioning, do I really need to do this? Or can I kind of dodge this one and then move on to the next milestone and then move into the next stage? And the reason she was questioning if she really needed to do it is because she then went on to say, because I never see anyone else going live. I never see people doing this. And that made me excited because that right there is the reason to do it. I told her exactly. Most people won't, most people can't, or most people don't. And we are the people that don't do what most people do. That's why we get the results most people will never, ever have. We are the people that go live even when no one is watching. Why? Because it builds a muscle. It builds courage. It builds trust. It builds communication skills. It builds leadership. It builds resilience. And because it makes you unforgettable. People do start coming. People do watch the replay. It's not just about who comes on and sees you going live. We have to play the long game, not just the quick, short-sighted game. And, like I said, the same goes for my podcast. I started it from day one of registering my business, before I had an audience, before I knew if it would work. That decision sped up my growth as an authority, as a communicator, as a mentor, as a teacher. It forced me to find my voice quickly and to build a body of work that attracted opportunities I couldn't have predicted ever. So we show up consistently even when it's not paying off yet. Number 3 is that I put myself out there publicly. I showed my face from day one. I shared my story. I taught openly online before I had a polished brand. Some of you have been around from the very beginning. You've seen the evolution of content, of photo quality, video quality. You've seen the evolution of visual branding and quality and scrappy doing it yourself, and just you've seen the whole entire thing. You don't need to start perfect, but you do need to start. So I started before I had a polished brand, before I had a huge following, before I had any idea of who my ideal customer was. I started, and the more I did, the more information and feedback I received. I did not wait until everything was ready. And I did not wait until I wasn't nervous or until I didn't have anxiety anymore. No, sitting there in the freeze would have been far worse for me. So I took action because I know that action creates momentum, and dis-ease, which is disease, festers in stagnation, in doing nothing. So I just did little things, and I kept a promise to myself that every week I'll send one email, I'll record one podcast, and I will post on Instagram. Back then, it was 3 times a day. That's what I would do. That was my work. If I could do that, awesome. And remember, at this time, I had nothing to sell. That was all coming. Because once you make building an audience your goal, because you understand that building an audience and a personal brand is the biggest and most valuable asset that you will ever build, because then once you have that, it doesn't matter what you go out and create. You have got your people, your audience will naturally tell you how they see you and how they want you to help them. And then your job is to go out and create those things for them. But how many people are willing to go out and put out content for 6 months or a year or longer without any pay? Not that many. So most people don't want to do it that way. It was terrifying. I did worry greatly what people would think. I feared being judged. But I knew that if I hid, no one would ever find me. No one would be able to connect with me, or no one would ever buy from me. So I put myself out there imperfectly, awkward, vulnerably. And that act alone set me apart from 90% of people who choose to stay silent, overthink, or wait for confidence to come in first. Number 4, I got good at saying no to short-term comfort. That meant I gave up distractions, whether it was consuming content online that really had no purpose, or sitting there watching TV. I gave up on those distractions and those easy yeses also, disguised as opportunities that didn't align with where I was going or what I wanted. And while friends relaxed, I was learning, I was creating, I was showing up. I wasn't always fun, I'll give you that. It wasn't always fun, but it also wasn't always convenient. But I had to choose long-term growth over short-term comfort. And those decisions really added up. And what helped me was reframing stress. Not even reframing, just actually learning that not all stress is actually bad. In fact, it's required. Some stress is required. And some stress, mostly what people are experiencing when they are starting out in business, the stress that they are experiencing is called eustress. It's the positive kind of stress that actually stretches you. It is required. Your brain needs it in order to move forward, in order to chase goals, in order to accomplish something meaningful. It builds resilience. It expands your capacity. So I choose to lean into eustress instead of avoiding it. So when it feels uncomfortable or if it feels big, I lean in. Now, I even remember having this feeling as a child before I would perform on stage in a dancing concert. If you've ever performed live, whether it's music or dancing, you will have gotten this feeling, this sensation as you kind of wait in the wings or you wait for the curtain to open and then the lights come on and the song plays and all of a sudden your body just like, oh, the audience is there and you start doing the moves, right? But that feeling, that nervous anticipation, even sometimes feeling like, oh my gosh, I don't even remember the first move. How does this dance start? What are we doing? Oh my gosh. And then boom, you're out there. I remember the same sort of feeling when I would study for a major exam in high school or at university. I would get this nervousness, this stress. I'd be like, oh, Mum, I feel sick. I feel nervous to go and do this exam. I'm so nervous, like nervous in the days leading up to it. Same sort of thing when you go for a job interview, right? You feel this nervousness and it is natural. Learning to embrace that and lean in, going through it, allowing yourself to feel the emotions as you go through it, rather than thinking that being stressed is such a bad thing. I'm not talking about the bad type of stress, okay? I'm talking about the normal, healthy stress that is good, that is needed. It's that feeling of, oh my gosh, my stomach is in knots, but I know that this is good for me. I am being called forwards and upwards with this thing. It's the positive kind, okay? It stretches you, it builds resilience, it expands your capacity. So learn about it and lean into it. And that is another way that I was able to grow faster than people who were always trying to stay comfortable or saying, oh, I can't do that yet, or I can't. How can you be in that mastermind? How can you fly overseas with your babies to go see your mentor? How can you launch this thing before you've made it? How can you blah, 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 blah. Say no to short-term comfort. If it feels edgy, do it. Be the rebel. Number 5 is that I asked for help and mentorship. I am shocked at the amount of people that want to create 6- and 7-figure and multi-7-figure businesses, whole new careers, or maybe they're transferring their skills. Regardless, maybe you're already an expert, but now you're transferring it into a business model that is completely new for you, and you don't understand sales and marketing or leading a team or automations or launches, but there are these people and they are out there trying to figure it out on their own. What the actual? I am so confused. That breaks my brain. I just don't understand. I didn't try to figure it all out on my own ever. I invested in mentors and then I asked them hard questions, the ones that I knew would stretch me. And then I would take action and I would go back and seek feedback from those people. I would ask questions like, what are you seeing in me that I'm not seeing myself? I would ask, if you were in my position, what would you be doing differently? And I would ask, what am I avoiding right now that is costing me my growth? And I would sit there and I'd be quiet and I would let them talk. I didn't just want encouragement. I wanted to be challenged because that's how you grow. Now, most people, in my opinion, are joining containers that don't offer enough of a stretch for them. They don't feel comfortable being in a bigger container or being with a mentor that will actually call them forward, or they don't believe that they're good enough to sit in those spaces yet. You are good enough to sit in the space. The fact that you desire it is enough. Stop going into spaces that you've outgrown. Stop going to coaches that just want to pat you on the back and offer words of encouragement. Go where you will be challenged. That's how you grow. And stop hiding. If you do put yourself in a container where there is an invitation to be challenged, step forward. Get in the hot seat. Allow yourself to be seen and coached. Don't hide. Come imperfect. That's what it's about. Number 6 is that I reinvested profits back into growth. So instead of celebrating my first profits with lifestyle upgrades, no, we're staying in the same house, we're driving the same dodgy car. All of the money is going back into the business. I am self-funded. It's going into ads, it's going into systems, it's going into team, it's going into branding, it's going into photography. These were my priorities. It's going into consistent mentorship. This is how I scaled faster while other people stayed stuck at the same level because they were just wanting to improve their lifestyle, upgrade their lifestyle. No, I'm investing back into my business. Again, the running theme of these is playing the long game. We're playing the long game. All right, number 7 is that I owned my identity as a leader even when I didn't feel like one. Oh, so this is not just about mindsetting yourself, okay? It means making decisions like a leader would, even when no one is watching. It means when things go down, and they will, you choose to respond in the way that a leader would, that already has the business of your dreams, not choosing to respond in a way that makes sense for you now. That's already going to be such a limited response. Your job is to respond at a higher level, and then that anchors you in. That becomes your new standard. It means showing up consistently, speaking with conviction. If you don't believe the things you're saying, why the heck should anyone else? No one is going to believe a leader that doesn't even have conviction for the stuff that she's saying. You've got to back yourself. When you say yes to investing in a program, it's never about the money and the cost of that thing. It's always about, do you back yourself? That's what it's about. It also meant for me stopping behaviors that were holding me back. So being aware of my own deficits or my own shadow parts, which was people pleasing, waiting for approval before I move, playing small, second guessing myself, waiting for things to be perfect, all of that. No, I had to remind myself, God doesn't send challenges to break me or to overwhelm me or to punish and test me. God sends challenges to prepare me. I'm being prepared with every challenge or setback or difficulty. I am being purified. I'm being strengthened and prepared for the next level. Every obstacle was training me in leadership, in resilience, in responsibility, for the version of me that I am now. The people who break their contracts, the people who didn't keep their promises or their commitments, the people who X, Y, Z, all of that, whether it's team or customers or peers or mentors, anyone that lets you down, like none of this stuff is happening just for fun. It's happening to train you in your leadership, to train you in being resilient and responding better, to train you in responsibility. Leaders don't wait for permission. They take responsibility. They go first. And that is the identity that I decided to step into. And by putting myself in relationship and proximity with leaders, I got to actually see how leaders do behave, how leaders do think, how leaders do make decisions. Because a lot of people think they're responding like a leader, but they haven't had great leadership examples around them. So who is your muse? Who are you seeing? And where are you setting the baseline of what is a good leader and how they choose to react or respond in a challenge? And number 8 is that I mastered one strategy through repetition at a time. I didn't chase shiny objects or dabble in everything. I chose to master live launches specifically through webinars. And it was hard. When I would sit in masterminds with incredible people and someone would share a strategy or a sales system that was really working for them, or a tiny offer funnel that was really working for them, or an evergreen funnel, I had whiplash. I was wanting to do this one, then that one, and then second guessing because this one wasn't working yet. Maybe I should do that one. You get nowhere doing that. You need to pick a thing and you need to be disciplined enough to study it and take it to mastery. So for me, I just made a decision. It was going to be webinars. And instead of trying a strategy once and moving on and saying it doesn't work or it's hard, I ran webinar after webinar after webinar after webinar. And every time I studied what worked and I fixed what didn't. And I refined my delivery. And I learned how to connect with my audience, how to handle objections, how to make the close, how to make it a lovely experience, how to make it be transformative for everybody. I also studied other people's launches, other people's webinars. I attended as many as I could possible. I attended my mentors' webinars. I'd ask them for feedback. I'd ask them questions about their strategy. I made it my mission to master this thing. And then I would go to my mentees' webinars and watch theirs and learn from what they were not doing that they could be doing. Gave them that feedback, helped them scale as well. That repetition builds mastery. It's discipline. It's old school. It turned webinars into one of the strongest revenue engines in my business, not because I was lucky, but because I was willing to do the same thing over and over until it worked. So that's it, my friends. Brutal truths from my early years in business, things that I did that most people won't. And just to recap, it was 1, invest before I ever felt ready. 2, show up consistently even when it wasn't paying off yet. 3, put myself out there publicly. 4, say no to short-term comfort. 5, ask for help and mentorship. 6, reinvested profits back into growth. 7, owned my identity as a leader. And 8, mastered one strategy through repetition. That's it, my friends. I hope that you loved this episode. It was really good getting that one out and sharing with you. And I'm excited to hear what you loved about it. Now, over the past couple of months, it has been wonderful in my inbox. Like my emails, I just am loving hearing back from you about these episodes and what you loved. So we got, in particular, a really big response to episode 499. So if you haven't listened to that one, maybe go and check that out, especially if you liked this one. But please also feel free to send in a question or ask me if there's a particular thing that you want to know more about from my story, from my journey, how I make decisions. Feel free to send in a scenario-based question. I just love hearing from you ladies and bringing these episodes on things that you want. All right, I'm going to leave it there. I will see you over on Instagram or inside of one of my beautiful programs. And don't forget that the Inner Circle Mastermind is going to be opening for application for 2026 enrollment, opening very soon at the end of this October. If you're interested in knowing anything about it at all, send us an email or go to innercirclemastermind.co. Stay happy in your hustle.